this video, we will talk about modifying tools or editing tools in AutoCAD. So we will proceed from the previous lesson where we finished the drawing tools here. We experimented with a lot of these, and now we will go forward and start always with something pretty simple and then continue with more complex things here in the modify panel. So as usual, we will go step by step and begin here with the most important primary and also simpler commands, which are the transform commands. You can find these in any software, and these are the move, the rotate, and the scale tools. So we already know that we can move objects in many different ways. So for example, we can click here on a line in the middle, click and drag it, and this is gonna move it. So this is one first command that we learned. And also we can move an object, for example this line, by clicking in the middle grip there and moving. But this is the actual move tool. Personally, I don't use this pretty often, but this is going to be useful to explain some pretty important basic things here in AutoCAD. So for example, you have two ways to run a command or to do an action. You can either first select the object and then click on the command that you want to use, in this case move, or else you can click first on the command and then it's going to show you the select objects little square there, and so you can select the object and then press enter. Now you probably notice that it's a little bit longer, just a step longer when you do this way, when you first select the command and then the object. So my suggestion is first select and then run the command. It's going to be one step less, so it's going to be faster, and when you do this like 1000 times a day, it's going to make the difference. So always select first and then get the command that you want. So if you select move here, the object is already selected, so I just need to specify a base point, which could be anything inside the object or also outside the object. So when you use all these commands, especially move, rotate, and scale, you always get a first reference point and then a second one, which is also shown by that dashed yellow line. So it's showing me right now the movement from the starting point to the end point. So if I can click there like that. Now you also saw that snaps are gonna be activating also here. So not just when you are drawing, but also when you are editing. And snaps are really important to do things more precisely and to help you. So I'm gonna talk about snaps in this lesson, but also in other lessons because they are really important. Now the only snap that I find here is this endpoint. So I can use that endpoint and move the object more precisely using that as a reference, and also by typing the second point, so the displacement and the direction. So again, by pressing tab, I can use dynamic inputs and I can say, okay, move it 1000 millimeters and move it 45 degrees. So I'm fixing this movement and press enter. So this is a really precise movement. It's not just like clicking and moving things around like we did in the previous lessons. So pretty important to understand these basic things. Now also you might want to check the option bar there in the command bar, so to see some extra features, and also up here sometimes when you use some editing tool you will have extra features above, but we're gonna see that later. Now let's move to the rotate. Now we already know again that we can, for example, when we create a line, we can already tell the degrees of the rotation, so we can press tab and say, okay, I want that to be rotated 45. But what if we want to rotate the element later? Now we can use the rotate. So if I select, let me create here, well, I will just use this shape here. I want to rotate it, so I'm gonna move it, clicking on the border and move it right here, and then rotate it. Now again, you can see that it's gonna ask me to select objects and then press enter. And now again, I have a base point. Now this is really important again, because this will be the pivot of my rotation. So if I rotate in the middle, I'm gonna have this effect. If I rotate on a corner, this is gonna be a totally different effect. So it's pretty important to decide the center of rotation. So before we do that, I want to also activate another snap, which can be useful here to get the exact center of this object. So I'm going to go down here in the switches, click on this little arrow, and just as we enabled the node snap in the previous lesson, right now we're gonna enable midpoint. Midpoint is pretty important because it's gonna show me all the midpoints of my shapes and lines and so on. So if I click rotate now, select these objects, press enter, now it's gonna tell me the base point, and I can get the exact center by going into this midpoint here and use the extension line. But wait, I don't have extension lines. So this is another switch you need to focus on. You need to be careful that it's activator here. So I'm gonna activate this switch here, and now I'm gonna go back there and again select and rotate. Now I'm gonna stay just a few seconds there. It's gonna appear the midpoint tag and then move to the right. You can see now I have this extension line, this projection, which is gonna be really helpful right now to find the perfect center. I'm gonna also get this other one and then move. Now when these snaps are recorded, you will see a little crosshair, a little green crosshair, and this means that those are being recorded to be used here as projections. And here I can find the exact intersection between those two, which is the exact center, and now I can rotate. So another thing here, I can specify the rotation angle again, you can see there, but if I go down there, I can also not only rotate but also copy. So I can create copies by simply rotating. So let's say that I want to copy this in 90 degrees. I'm gonna type 90, press enter, and that's it. So I have an exact rotated copy of my original element. So using snaps could be really, really helpful. Now I want to use a triangle. So let me go here and get this one here. And also we can copy really easy by doing Ctrl+C or Ctrl+V. This is one way we can copy. We can also select an object, go here and say copy and paste it. We can also use cut and paste, which means basically moving the object. So if I cut this and then paste it right here, it's like moving the object into another place. So you have these Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, Ctrl+X shortcut keys, or you can use here in the clipboard part the commands that you find there. Now what if I want to have the exact middle of the triangle? Now let's do again the rotation, and I can use this midpoint, okay, this one here, okay, and this one here, okay, but you can see that that's not the actual geometric center. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. Well, I can still copy this and rotate it, but it's not what I intended. I want to find the perfect geometric center. So if I go back in the snaps, I have the geometric center. And for particular shapes like the triangle, this is pretty useful. So I'm gonna go to rotate again, select objects, and if I roll over here the border, it's gonna show me the midpoint, but also that star there in the middle. That's the geometric center. And again, I can continue to rotate and copy. So let me do that again. Rotate, roll over the border, click on the geometric center, press copy, and this is gonna create copy. And I can continue to do that. You can select, right click, repeat, rotate, get the center, and continue to rotate and copy. Okay, now let's move on and go to